It's time to mind your business with me, Jamillah Lodge. Tune in to find out how to mind your business with BEDC, special guest entrepreneurs, industry experts, and more. Brought to you by BEDC. Bermuda Business starts here. And welcome to Mind Your Business.
Hi, Jamillah. Always a pleasure to see you.
Yes. So what I'd like to do is start by you just telling us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. This is always the question I have probably the hardest time with. So my name is Nesbitt. I'm the president of Abacus, which is a local accounting firm, a CMA CPA with a real passion for working with business owners. And I think, one of my joys in life is really being able to simplify complex or things that other people think that are complex that to me seems quite simple as far as accounting. I speak the language, I think.
Yeah, and it is a different language, trust.
Yep.
So you're one of those unique people, or gifted, I will dare say, that understands the language of accounting, because so many others do not and have no interest in doing it. So thank God for people like yourself.
Yeah. I feel the same way about, people who do graphic design or marketing, or, the people in the information technology world, or the plumbers, or actually many of my clients, they speak their own language, and I can.
And thank God for them, right?
Thank God for them.
So how long has Abacus been in existence?
Yeah. Oh, what a great question. So we were founded in 2007, and actually, so in October, we will be marking our 15th birthday. I know, right? Where does the time go?
That is awesome.
Where does the time go?
I know, that's awesome.
Yeah. And it feels like that's yesterday, like it still feels so fresh and new.
Oh, that's because you love what you're doing, though, right?
I do love what I do. Yep.
That's what they say. They say when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So
I won't claim that I've never worked a day, but because that is the road of entrepreneurship. There are the highs and the lows, but
it's very true.
It has flown by.
So that brings me to my next question, though. So have you obviously, at 15 years, I'm sure, even though you look young, I'm sure your career didn't start at Abacus. So what has been the difference for you, like working for an organization and then working for yourself?
Yeah. What a good question. So I worked in a few different areas. So I worked for, I kind of did some random things. I was like the warehouse manager for Canberra Electric, like really random things. I'm like, why on earth was I doing that? But then really was hired into the accounting world, which is where my heart always really has been. And kind of quickly started to realize what I liked and didn't like. And so kind of insurance accounting has never, ever been something that has, lit me up. But working, in smaller businesses and really getting my hands dirty with things did. But I would get really bored once I had cleaned it up. So I'd get in, clean it up, and then just be kind of looking for what the next thing was.
Something else, right?
Which didn't serve me very well, kind of on a resume basis. We all know if you look at somebody's resume and
they have all these, you're like,
right.
Yeah.
But then being able to actually use that, and transition into the kind of more dynamic world of accounting services means that I'm doing something different every day. I'm working with different clients and getting them cleaned up. I've got a team of people that then can help them keep it, clean and managed, and what we call kind of the maintenance program.
Okay.
But that road was really interesting to look back and understand that something that wouldn't work really well in traditional employment worked really, really well in more of an entrepreneurship model.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, everything that you said sounds very entrepreneurial. And I guess you mentioned your team, and I know, you started almost 15 years ago. So what is your team looking like now? Because I think I saw an ad in the paper, Jamillah, I think it's working with you. So can you talk about how that has grown and the transition in services that you guys now offer?
Sure. So this, fundamentally, accounting and bookkeeping, I don't want to say will never change, but math is math, right? Like the foundations of this won't transition hugely. However, some of the technologies around it have changed. The different approaches, different industry specializations have changed. But my team, I'm really excited. Actually, this sounds sort of funny coming from the oldest person on the team. I think I'm the oldest person on the team. I might have to check that. But we really, the last few years, started hiring younger people. And they just bring a totally different energy, a different way of thinking about things, which I think really helps us stay current. But really, I'm finding the clients are really plugging in with that energy as well. So we are currently a team of 8, and it's a nice stable size, I think. I don't necessarily want to be, so big that I don't actually know who's working with us, but yeah.
Hey, you never know. You never know.
That's not for me. But what it does mean though is that as business owners work with us, is that they'll know who they're working with, because we are a small team. But we've really been trying to work, in such a way that there's not ever going to be a gap. So if someone, we've actually on the team, we've just had a few of us lose parents, which is an awful way, to have to step away from work. But it did mean that the team, nothing fell apart. Everything keeps rolling because there's other people that are really willing and able to step in and really help the wheel keep spinning.
And it's nice to know that you have someone that has your back like that, right? So when you can't need to take time, you can.
Yep. And that's something most of our business owners struggle with when you're small, right? Like you take a sick day or, maternity leave or just a vacation. It really becomes kind of the impossible dream. And so that is the benefit sometimes of having a bit of expansion, so that you have some coverage and some physical and mental space to be able to step away from time to time.
Definitely. And when I think about our stakeholders, who are your clients as well, the small businesses, I mean, for them, like you mentioned earlier, accounting is like a different language, and it's hard for them to wrap their minds around it and what comes for you so easily. And so we always say, understand what you know and understand what you don't know. And then you just put someone in place to handle the things that you don't know.
Absolutely.
What's your opinion of that? Because a lot of times it's like, you're trying to start this business, you're watching your coins, you're scrubbing 2 nickels and dimes together to try and make it work. And so a lot of times, unfortunately, our small businesses don't hire that support. They don't hire for the things that they need in terms of accounting. So how do you handle that? Or how do you advise clients who are like, I don't know how I can afford this?
What we always come back to is capacity and capability. So if a business owner is finding themselves really busy doing the things that generates the revenue, that generates the money, don't get distracted by these other things. I always use the example, when I was a smaller company, that I was the chief toilet paper officer. We ran out of toilet paper. That was my job. And there came a point where I realized how much I could earn for our company versus how much it would cost the company for me to go and buy the toilet paper. So it is sometimes really understanding what you're giving up by doing those things yourself. Accounting is a cost. There's no doubt about it. But I think, and I would also argue marketing in the same way, it's actually an investment. So while it is money out, it should, in theory, also result back in value to your business in some way, shape, or form. So either it's giving you information for you to make some different decisions around what's working, what's not working, or the person who's working with you is actually offering that as advice as well. And that's really the hope for us, is for us to be able to partner with business owners so that we're not just giving them financial statements, which many of them are like, what is this?
What is it?
What is this? Who cares? Okay, great. It's done. But what does it mean? That's really the crux of why you have people doing your books and doing your accounting, is the information is supposed to be the value, the data that allows you to better manage your business and hopefully make more money. So it should pay for itself in that way.
And I mean, as a testament to your organization definitely helped one of our clients who had been struggling for years and years. And the argument was, I never have enough money that I can cover the cost of an accountant. And you guys arranged something with them to support them so that they could get where they need to be so that they could afford to. It was like built into the operational costs. And so it was just amazing, the transformation between this person who we had supported and had struggled for years, and within a matter of, I want to say within a year's time, it was like if the business righted itself.
You know, it's funny because sometimes it's like exercise where it's like you put it on, you know, you need to do it, but you put it
Yeah.
off and then it becomes bigger than it needs to be. And, you know, there's all these things. And then often, you know, once you just go and do it, you're like, I can't believe I waited so long to why
To do this.
I feel so
Yeah.
much better. And so, you know, it is interesting often, what we find with business owners is, this sounds sort of cheesy, but I'm known for being cheesy, so I'm okay. But you know, the peace of mind, like that's honestly what we are selling most of the time, is the ability for business owners to say, okay, I know this is being handled. Now that does, I've said this for years too, that does not mean you're taking your hand off the steering wheel.
Right.
That you need to be fully engaged and, you know, partnering with whoever's working with you on your accounting. But you should have some peace of mind on that piece, that it is being well handled, that you're getting information that you need on a timely basis, that you can really focus on your business. I mean, Jamillah, we talked about this before, but the name of the radio show, Mind Your Business.
Mind your business.
I love it. Like, I think it's what I wanted to name Abacus before I named it Abacus, because that really was the idea, is that if we've got, you know, one of our quotes on our website is, we've got your backs because we've got your books.
Yeah.
An idea is that, you know, this allows the business owner to then really put the energy where the energy needs to be, which is on their business success, and not, you know, doing things that maybe aren't in their total zone of genius.
Yeah. I mean, and it makes perfect sense, right? It's like you're not doing this business, or you're not a plumber because you know how to figure out your books. You're a plumber because you're good at plumbing. You know what you need to do that. And the same, like you said yourself, you're good at numbers. That's the language you speak. It's easy for you.
I outsource my IT. I outsource my marketing. I've got people on my team doing other things because, you know, there is the could versus should argument, right? I could do it, but nobody wants me doing the IT.
It's like, I could do it, but should I?
Right. Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about the service offering? So yes, you do books, but what else? Because I feel like you guys have expanded what you are able to provide to business owners now.
Yeah. So our main services are still bookkeeping, accounting, and training, and those are quite broad services. So bookkeeping is everything from, you know, recording deposits through bank reconciliation. There's lots of pieces in between. Accounting is then kind of the transformation of that data into financial statements. Training is training. We do a lot of QuickBooks training. So our specialties, what we're really known for, are providing outsourced payroll services. We've worked really hard to get to know kind of employment legislation in and out, and make sure that employers are doing the right thing, and that they're doing the right thing for their business as well as their employees. So, you know, really making sure they're in compliance, but that they're not paying too much as well. And we've more recently been putting a lot of energy kind of on our advisory programs, where we really do deep dives with business owners on identifying what they want to do with their business and how to get there.
I mean, to me, that's a reflection, like you said, of the growth of the organization, even in your hiring practices and how you're recognizing that business changes. I mean, for goodness sake, we all had to do a 180 or 360 in some cases when the pandemic hit, right?
Yes.
And so you're like, okay, what do I need to do different now as a provider of services to businesses to ensure that they are still getting like top tier service and that sort of thing? So I think, your expansion of services is definitely a reflection of what's needed now. Businesses need that kind of support, you know?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I wanted you to help define or help to clarify, if you will, so accounting, right? This thing, accounting, this industry or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. What is comprised of that? Because you mentioned bookkeeping, right? I think about like forecasting and all these things. So when you say accounting, what is included in that?
You're hired. Like, you've already. It's so when I think of accounting, I think of everything that's involved to get all the way to a financial statement So that's just the way my brain works. But if you were to, speak to somebody, often we'll get a small business that'll call and say, I need an accountant. And I'll say, well, do you? Or they'll say, well, I need an audit. And I was like, well, do you? Because there's a lot of, going back to the whole idea of the language. So bookkeeping, just to kind of, I guess, go back over exactly what I just said, bookkeeping really is the transactional entry of your data. So you're recording your sales and your deposits and the money that you've got coming in, and you're recording the money that you've got going out, and all of the data points that need to be recorded. The accounting technically then is transforming that into information. That is literally the first line of an accounting textbook, is accounting is making information useful. So to go back to the point about us sending out financial statements, if the person receiving them does not understand them, then we have not really done a good job. Cash is up. Great. Well, what does that mean?
Right.
Yeah, great that we've got more money, but why do we have more money? Did we sell more things? Did we save on something? Did we not purchase a truck? Did we not pay a bill? Like sometimes, did we miss something? Like there's so many things around that one data point that could be. So it's really then being able to present information to the person you're working with. And that often is interesting because we'll often sit in between the clients and the bank, or the clients and a potential investor, or if they're looking to sell their business, like what those things look like. And so it's being able to present that information so that it's useful to both of those parties, because often the management information that a business owner needs is way more in depth, and we need to slice and dice it a bunch of different ways, whereas what the bank needs is a fairly standard template of financial information at a summary level. So I really love accounting, you can tell.
I know, but I'm glad you do. And it's helping us to understand, because people don't, right? They think about,
I just get way too excited about financial statements.
Yeah, they don't understand the differences and the nuances. And I love how you're explaining that it's helping the business owner to understand the data. Yeah. Like if you don't do that, then you haven't done your job, right?
Right, and we always want to be technically accurate. That's really important, is you hear people talking about cook the books all the time. There's nothing that makes me want to scratch my face off more than the words cooking the books or fudging, or but there are ways that you can present things that are still technically correct. They just present them in a less intimidating way. So I can't remember if we've talked about this before, but I have a client that in her financial statements, instead of just naming her bank account, she named it the Bank of Financial Abundance. And I was like, that's not wrong. The number's still the number, but it gave her joy every time.
It made her feel good. Yeah.
Financial statement. Great. Let's run with it. Let's do it.
I love that. What they say, when you speak it into existence, that's what you're doing. Yes. You're actualizing, you're making it happen. Manifesting. That's what they say. So when you talk about financial statements, what do those entail?
That's a great question. So your financial statements, there are many, but the two main ones, actually, I'll throw the third, the cash flow, because it's my favorite financial statement. Okay. So there's the balance sheet, which is a snapshot at a point in time of what you own and what you owe. So what you own are your assets. It's your bank account. It's the money that people owe you. It's inventory you own. It's, the truck that you bought. It's anything that is of value that you own in your business. I'm pretty sure everybody understands when I say what you owe, because most of us get that as a concept.
We know that, right?
Right. So it's the vendors that you owe money to. It's the bank loan. It's the payroll liabilities for your payroll tax that you've been withholding from your staff that you need to pay on. So there's these things that you will owe. And it really gives you the sense of the value of your business, the equity of your business, which is the difference between those two things. And hopefully you owe more than you own, because otherwise you're in trouble. And we never like to see that as that's a problem. So that's your balance sheet in its simplest form. And then its sort of sister statement is the income statement or the profit and loss statement. Those are the same thing. And that really is then the picture of how your business is doing from a revenue and expense standpoint. So what have you earned, whether you collected it or not? What did you earn?
Right.
And what did you incur, whether you paid it or not? So that you really can get a sense of how your business is doing. Because many businesses operate on a cash basis. which is really helpful as far as what's left in the bank. But it doesn't really give you a good picture of what is unpaid or what is uncollected. And so really having a proper financial statement that shows you both of those things is hugely important. And then if you do those statements on what we call the accrual basis, so as it's earned or incurred, not paid, then the cash flow statement becomes a really important statement, because that really tells you where your money has gone. So I'll say that, people will say to me all the time, well, I have a profitable business, but I have no money in the bank. How is that possible? And that cash flow statement really tells you that your business made $100,000 last year, but you didn't collect $60,000 of it from your customers.
So there you go.
So, right? Like there's a problem. Or you bought a truck, and that's where some of that money went, and some of these other things. And so really being able to pull the pieces apart and say, where is your money going? Because that is an important question to be able to answer.
And I think it's important for businesses to understand, because people are looking at the sales and how much money they make, but then you're not taking into consideration how much money you have to spend to make that money.
Right.
And it's what's left over.
Pieces that go
all
into
of it. All of it.
There's a bakery that I am cheerleading on. Family member is an amazing baker.
Yeah.
And knows her price points, but at the same time, sometimes we're like, okay, you bought the most expensive sprinkles to put on that. How did that?
Because they're so passionate, and they're like, I only want the best. And it's like, okay. but the person eating it, can they taste that you bought the most expensive sprinkles?
Or did they say, I want all of this stuff needs to be top tier, and I'm going to pay the premium for it, right? Like you're exactly right. Like sometimes we wrap things up for clients and they don't even know we've done it, and so that's a nice give, but doesn't really help if nobody knows it happened.
Right.
And sometimes, people are willing to pay the extra, but you have to tell them it's extra. And so, those are the sorts of really important pieces that can make the difference between, working smart and working hard, which I know we're all a fan of hopefully the first, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we all strive to that. It's like work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
And what does that look like? But I think some of the things that you brought up are very important, especially for like businesses that are starting out. They, a lot of times it's the passion. They love what they do. They want it to be the best. Yeah. But then when you sit down and break down the cost of actually delivering on that product or service, then you have to say to yourself, well, if I want to continue to do this, how can I do it and be profitable? Right?
And
especially in Bermuda.
The other thing that we do as business owners is we don't ever want to price gouge. I think that's what I see the most, and I struggle with it. I've struggled with it for 15 years, is how, I am in this to make money. Yes, I'm in this to help people, but at the end of the day, this is my retirement plan. This is how I'm.
Okay. There's a means to an end.
And so it is that balance between making sure we're passing everything along the way we need to, and still being able to work with the people we want to work with. And it is challenging. And I think I first started, everything is going up.
Everything.
So this is not getting easier. And it is challenging to then say, okay, can I pass this along reasonably?
Yeah.
And making sure you're aware of when things are going up. The price of fuel's gone up, which means the price of importing everything's going up.
Yeah.
Have you looked at what your prices are recently to really, know if you're still making the money, if you're still making money, period, or still making, enough money to justify the amount of work you're putting into it? Because every business owner I know is busting hump.
They are. And I think it's interesting because, a lot of times when we work with business owners and they want to start a business, and especially younger ones, they say, okay, I'm going to have the lowest price, right? Because whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe you should figure out what it's going to cost you to deliver that first before you determine what that price is, because maybe you can't have the lowest price, right? Yeah. And maybe now you understand why when you go buy it from that other person, they have to charge you what they have to charge you, because there's this cost that's associated with them actually delivering it. So I think people are slowly getting it, especially, you have no choice in Bermuda. Everything's imported. Yep. You can do besides labor.
Yeah.
Well, nope, that's important too.
It can be. It
In
can
some
be.
cases.
It can be. And, and again, just going back to the whole idea of ethical business ownership
Yeah.
is, if you're going to, this gets tricky, but, as far as paying people a living wage, at what point do we say, okay, I need to make sure, and I've had this as a philosophy for a long time. I don't want a lot of turnover. So I want to make sure I'm paying people enough that they're not constantly looking for something else, right? That they're happy to work for me, that it works for them monetarily, that's really important for us. But that does mean our prices are a little higher because I'm committed to having Bermudian employees. I'll disclose that I've got 2 people who are offshore for a couple of reasons, but my commitment is to continue to have our team on island. And that's a very different business model to what some of the other firms are doing. And no diss, it's just a different model.
Yeah.
But it does mean that our prices are going to be different because I'm not exporting all of our labor elsewhere. And so it is,
that's right.
I think as consumers as well, it's important to keep some of those things in mind as we're complaining about how high prices are.
Listen,
right?
I think when you shift from being a consumer to supporting businesses, and then you get it, so you understand, and you're like, I get it. In some instances, it's like, no, they don't have to do that.
Yes.
But in others, it's completely valid,
but there's
completely
the choice
understandable.
Of consumerism, right? Is that they whatever they're charging, I don't have to buy it. Like I don't have to participate in this. And so I'm going to make my decisions, but I appreciate those people who are able to also get a little more of the context around where some of the price points are coming from. And again, everybody's got different situations, but where you are able to do.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to ask you, because you advise people on a regular basis about how they look at their business, how to cut if they need to cut, how to sell more of something if it shows that that's what's selling. How do you assess your own business? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, you asked a good question. So what I will say is I'm lucky and smart. I am both. Where I've put 2 of my top team members in place as kind of directors to help me with that, because it is really, really challenging often to look at your business with any sort of impartiality. You're way too close. Your clients, you love your clients, your team, you love your team. It's hard often to make what sometimes can be tough decisions. Or not even necessarily tough decisions, but smart decisions, to take enough step back to say, okay, what could we do differently? It doesn't necessarily mean I have to cut people or costs or whatever. What can we do differently to make this have a different outcome? And by having some of my other team members in place to do some of the stuff, the books, like I don't actually do our books anymore. It's awesome. That was a big step to be able to hand that off.
Yeah, I would say to let go of that control, right? You built this business and now.
But it gives me the space to be able to see things differently. So when I was very heavy in the, again, deep in client work and working, 12, 13 hours a day, and then trying to do all of the stuff, the toilet paper and the other things in the business, you have no space to actually, kind of see where you're going. And, there's a really interesting image, and I'm going to try and recreate it because I know we're on radio. But there's, a guy in the forest, and he's just hacking and he's slowly making his way through this forest, and he's exhausted and he's sweaty. And he's clearly been working really hard. And at some point he climbs up the tree and he looks up and he's going totally in the wrong direction. And so all of that work, was really ineffective. And so I think sometimes if we take those breaks, we make those pit stops, we pick our head up and are able to look around. It really, really helps to understand, what's working and what's not, and then make some decisions.
That's a great analogy.
Often those decisions can be exciting. Like they don't necessarily have to be, I'm cutting something.
Right.
I'm always I'm the glass all the way full person, not even halfway full, it's all the way full. But what are the opportunities? What else is there? Or, what do we stop doing? Like, because sometimes we're beavering on the little 2-cent, pieces when the dollar stuff is sitting right there waiting in line, and we're so busy over here. So often it's just really taking that breath And I will say to anybody listening, when somebody told me to take that breath 10 years ago and I was deep in it,
Yeah.
I even have space to take the breath. I really do get it. But when you can find just a couple minutes here and there to really slow down and assess, it can make the world of difference in what you're doing.
It really does. That's sage advice
Ugh.
from someone who's been there, done that,
Yeah.
and knows exactly
Yep.
what she's talking about. So when you mentioned trainings and things like that, do you have any kind of webinars or sessions coming up that you want to share?
Yeah, we love we do love our offerings, and Zoom has absolutely transformed how people can
Yep.
get information and access, which has been fantastic. So we just completed a couple weeks ago our foundation course in QuickBooks.
Okay.
Part of our training series that was really successful, and we'll be offering what we call our next steps course in the next few months.
Okay.
So we really encourage people to follow Abacus on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn for info on upcoming offers, because what happens with those is we know we want to do them, and then it takes a little while to pick a date in terms of
Yes.
availability.
Trust, we know all about
We
that.
know how this works. So we just, we really encourage, we do try to give at least 3 weeks to a month's notice as far as when they're coming, but definitely follow us on social media, or reach out, info@abacus.bm if you prefer to be on a mailing list. We really try not to spam people with emails. But really, if we're going to be sending out a correspondence, or it's either going to be an announcement of something that's upcoming or a change in something that's happened legislatively,
Right.
Send out one on the new payroll tax rate. So we're really trying to make sure our people have good information on a timely basis.
And I will say that, I mean, what you guys are doing is very helpful, like helping people understand what's required with payroll tax. That's people always get that wrong. So these types of learnings and educational opportunities are great. And so we share it, once you let us know that you're having it, we share it to our stakeholders, because we can't do everything. So we need help, and definitely you guys as experts, we would defer to you in any day. So
I think we have a good partnership with EDC.
Yes, I would agree.
We're huge fans.
I would agree. Well, guess what? That's been 30 minutes. But I just want to say thank you for coming on. I love the way you talk about accounting. I love the way you break it down. It makes sense when you say it. Now, when we leave, I can't tell you what's going to happen, but I am glad that you are here for our small businesses. I know personally from personal experience that you have transformed so many businesses. We enjoy working with you. We enjoy supporting you. And I just want to say, I wish you continued success.
Jamillah, thank you so much. And again, thanks to everything that BDC does. It's usually one of the first things when people approach us as a new business, is the first question I ask is, have you reached out to the BDC? Because you guys have an amazing library, training tools, group of people, just amazing resources for those of us who are trying to do our thing.
Yes, for sure. Well, thank you again, Megan. And I guess we'll talk the next time, or we'll circulate next time your course offering is available. We'll definitely let our stakeholders know.
All right, Jamillah, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me on Mind Your Business, because if you don't, who will? I love it. Bye-bye.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks for tuning in to Mind Your Business with me, your host, Jamillah Lodge. Tune in next week, Thursday at 4 p.m. because if you don't mind your business, who will? Mind Your Business is brought to you by BEDC. Bermuda Business starts here.